In everybody's life, bad things have happened or are going to happen to us. And those difficult or bad things are going to impact us and make us go through change. My name is Dane Campbell. I'm a retired Air Force officer and a clinical social worker. I've been helping people with change for more than 30 years in my practice and in my career. And today, I want to talk to you a little bit about how to handle change that you don't choose, because things are going to happen to every single one of us that will require us to work through the change process, and our lives will be different on the other side of that change. There's a myriad of things that can happen to us. I can't be specific about every single one of those things, but if you will do the 5 things that I outlined today as kind of a precursor or starting point as you go through this change, I'm hoping that those changes will be a little bit easier for you and will kind of help you get started on a process that's positive when it comes to some of these very difficult things that we face in life. The first thing I want you to do when you realize this change is happening to you is to just take a breath. And what I mean by that is that you do things for yourself that are self-soothing, that help to alleviate your stress, your anxiety, and some of those difficult emotions that are sometimes brought up with the prospect of having to face change that you didn't choose. So there's a myriad of things you can do, stress reduction techniques. And I say take a breath because for me, oftentimes, it's very important to just sit back for a minute and to just breathe and to let some of that churned up emotion kind of flow outside of yourself so that you can look at things a little more clearly and you can proceed with decisions in a way that will hopefully impact the situation in a positive way. Self-soothing and breathing and managing the stress helps you to assess the situation in a better way. And it's going to take some time for you probably to assess what needs to happen in the situation depending on what it is. Losing a loved one is going to be a lot different maybe than losing a job or having to move or even having to face the loss of a relationship. All of these things you're going to need to assess longer term what you need to get through the situation and to help you cope with and accept what's coming your way in terms of some of these change things that are very difficult. I would actually sit down and start to make a list of what needs to happen. What do you need to do to take care of yourself? What do you need to do to take care of those around you that may be relying on you? And what do you need to do to take care of the actual situation? Sometimes we have a tendency to try to create lists and logs and all of these things in our mind, and we think that we won't forget anything or we will not miss anything if we do things just in our head. But I will tell you that memory is sometimes a little bit fickle, especially when we're in times of stress, especially when we're going through change. So get out a notebook, get out a piece of paper, get out your phone and make a memo of those things that you need to do to really help yourself get through the situation and help you find a way to find growth in the change that you're facing. The next thing that I'd like you to do is to seek help if you need it. Look, I know a lot of us feel invincible, and I know because of life circumstances, sometimes we don't like to ask for help. Sometimes there may not be a lot of people in our lives that we feel like we can turn to for assistance. But oftentimes, if we're going through something that's really big or very difficult, there are people or different groups or different organizations that we can turn to that will help us get through that change and that will help us get through the other side and find the growth that we need to. Maybe it's not an individual person. Maybe it's not even anybody in your sphere of influence that you know. If you've lost a loved one, you may need to turn outside of yourself and find the grief group that you can go to and talk to others who have been through the experience. Maybe if you're going through a relationship breakup, you need to turn to those people that have been your friends in the past who will maybe help you kind of talk through the issues and help you deal with that pain so that you can move forward. So there are a lot of different resources, a lot of different people that can often help you as you face some of these difficult things in life and the changes that oftentimes we would never choose to go through if we could help it. The last thing I want you to do is to get ready to grow. One of the things that these kinds of changes do for us is they stretch us and they make us develop different skills in our lives to overcome some of those emotions and to overcome the stress and to maybe overcome the loss or the deficits that happen because of unwanted change. So what I want you to do is to be ready to grow and to be ready to be a different person on the other side of that change, because you will be. You will learn things about yourself, you'll learn things about the situation, and you will learn things about others that you didn't know before. And sometimes those things are good and sometimes maybe not so positive, but in the end, if you are learning and walking through that process, you are growing and you're building your resiliency and you are building your inner strength. So in these situations, I want you to know that on the other side, there is growth, and that growth can oftentimes be very, very good. I've talked to many, many people who have gone through horrendous difficulties, horrendous changes, and horrendous things in their life. And even though them and their families would have preferred not to have to walk through those situations, even they will admit that they are a different person and that they have grown and learned and have become something different than they never thought that they could have been. You've been watching Change with Dane. I thank you for finding this channel. I really would appreciate it if you would click on that like button and that subscribe button. And it would be great if you could comment on some of the things that I've talked about today. What are some of the things that you've walked through, and have you found growth in those unintended or unwanted changes that have come into your life? I appreciate you watching. I look forward to talking with you in the future about more ideas and how to deal with change and how to make change help you find greater success and happiness in life. Until next time, take care.